Okay, so welcome to the interview. So we're having an interview with the third member of the XU band, the most recent member, the bass player. Um, his name is Denis. So Denis is going to tell us now, introduce himself briefly and his musical past and everything. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Budimir. Thanks for having me on this interview. I'm delighted to be the part of your small project. Um, yeah, like my music journey started as I was 14 years old. I started to play with much older musicians, just to see things, how it goes. After a few gigs, I started to getting another calls from another musicians. Let's go with us. Let's go with us. And then with my 17, 19 years old, I already made more money than my father, monthly salary. And this was only my weekend fun. So I decided to not to go to college and to do full-time musicians. What I did, and then after let's say 10 years of music gigging as a bass player, I decided to having my company for PA and light hire and rent, and I was successful at that. And then life happened, so I had to move to another country with one suitcase and headphones. My music, was only my headphones and my recordings. And now I'm living in Ireland for 6 years. I have several instruments. I have home studio. I own the PA system. So I continue to do music, and I'm trying to record music and to do some new music and some projects. And I'm definitely not stopping, with my music journey.
Excellent.
This is only the halfway.
Excellent. Okay, so the in relation to the research question that I'm doing the research on, which is the research into the viability of expanding the band's commercial activities to entire Ireland, so XU bands. So initially, what are your impressions? I know that I wrote what are your impressions, but what are your thoughts regarding expanding the band's commercial activities to entire Ireland. Just broadly, what do you think about it?
Well, it would be great, definitely. It would be great, but that require, some more professional approach from from us members to give the same quality as now we can give, to the Dublin area, our, fans, let's say. If we want to go bigger, we have to just take more time from ourselves to make that happen.
So change the almost like a change the attitude and
Exactly.
step up
Exactly.
in the game. And funny you should mention that because the rest of the guys, the rest of the interviewees had the same thoughts on that,
Right.
and they kind of did extensively they approached that particular issue, which hopefully I'll be able to capture that as part of my research in kind of in the context of the research question.
Right.
Well, moving on. So uh, I had like, do you think do you consider that the expansion itself has already begun? That's also one of the questions that I put forward to you. So, like, in my opinion, yes, that there are small steps, but like, what do you think on that side of things? I mean, from your perspective as being the most recent member, so you're a relatively new member in the EXU band.
Right. Yes. Yeah, so maybe I still looking, for things differently because I'm new. And
How long have you been playing in the XU band?
I think it's now less than a year. Less than a year, yeah.
Yeah.
5 or 6 gigs, let's say that.
Mm.
So to be honest, when I started, like, XU band is already here for a number of years. And I thought, like, it would be on a more professional level, for those kind of years. And I was surprised it's not.
Right. So what do
But
you
I'm
think
here
that?
and I want to try to help,
Hmm.
to raise the level.
So why do you think that is? Just like for obviously I have the kind of response from the rest, but I would really like to hear your thoughts on that. Why do you think that is? It's not a trick question.
Firstly, I would say, like, we all have full-time jobs, which is our secure side. And now music is our now hobby or passion. Probably was much differently, back home when we were all full-time musicians, professional musicians that we played, for money. That was like, we made it for our living. Here it's not. It's just, kind of part-time. And that's how I think we treat that ourselves like that.
Mm. So I think that the solution for that to be again kind of to step up one's game.
Yeah, definitely. But that requires, each member has to, like, just take of your free time, to invest that time in the band,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
in the future of the band.
yeah. Very good.
When you have, five adults with, their own lives, it's not easy and simple.
Yeah, good. Um, so going back to the subject, of the viability of expanding the band's commercial activities to entire Ireland, um, from a business perspective, getting like what are your thoughts on from a business perspective on getting more gigs, like as it stands, like say 1 to 2 per week, like would that be too much? Like what would be kind of in that sense something that would be viable in your opinion?
I I think it would be too much because, yeah, because, like, we do full-time jobs, and then you have to do it, like every gig you have to do it 100%, to satisfy, like, the people on the gig. It's not easy to do that, like, because over the week you should rehearse, like, yourselves. You should rehearse with the band, and I think one or two gigs per week, it's too much. It's not too much when you're a full-time musician. That's no problem,
Yeah,
because rest of the week you have free for playing, for testing, for everything you want. When you do full-time and 2 gigs per week, it's not easy. It's not like that is not achievable. It is, but it's hard.
yeah. And especially if you have to travel outside Dublin. Obviously you don't live in Dublin yourself either,
Yeah, I'm not living
but
down.
for me to rehearse on a daily basis and me living in the middle of the country, it's yes, I get it. You make a good point there. Um, Now, this is very specific. The next question, right? We're moving on quickly. From This is specifically addressed to you. Okay, so like again, that subject of viability of expanding band. But what are your thoughts on this subject from a business perspective, right? Bearing in mind your recent purchase of the entire PA system, you know, um,
Yeah,
to either rent to this band, other bands, live events, whatever, and you can expand on that particular side. And how does this fit with the band's activities? So I suppose you can elaborate a little bit more why you bought it. Was that simply for the band, or a part of your plan is to kind of include the band in that, or expand your business activities, or tell us more about that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I recently purchased the PA system. Now, for the band, um, sound engineering is like my passion. And, I mentioned back in Crash, I had a company for doing that. And I kind of, missed that. So this was like perfect, timing for me to step in again. Like, yeah, I'm gonna buy it. Like, I'm gonna do it.
So it's not necessarily for this band as such, like solely for the purposes of reinforcing this band.
So it's good for band, because so far when we had the gigs, in different places, the what is the backstage, like, PA and sound engineers, they didn't satisfy me as like former sound engineer. So that what told me, like, no, I will purchase that. So it's good for band. I can make quality how I want. It's better for band, for presentation. And then in the future, who knows? Maybe I can do here like, higher or something. So that's why, yeah.
So you consider this to be a good investment. Well, obviously, otherwise you wouldn't have purchased it in full.
But it is good investment.
Yeah. Like so far, when you look at our gigs, obviously you need, or all of us need a bit more work for you to start, getting returns on that particular side of your investment.
Yeah.
But I take it you're still optimistic in that sense.
Yeah.
From a practical point of view.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Because I got that, not looking to make a profit of that.
Okay, I see.
I would say that's the difference, Back in Croatia, when I had, much bigger company and everything was, like different, I had to make profit of that because that was my job.
Yeah.
So I look at that, much differently than now. This is now like, yeah, I can do it. I will do it because I can do it.
Oh, okay. So it's not
because of profit.
It's not necessarily from like a purely business perspective, as in money making, getting return of investments and all the returns of that particular investment.
Definitely not.
So you're basically doing, combining, your passion with eventual, getting some funds on the side, getting some money on the side with it, kind of along those lines. I see.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, moving on. If you don't have any questions in relation to this, but moving on.
I don't.
So, what are your thoughts on bands' self-managing approach? Like booking gigs, finding gigs, as opposed to involving, say, a booking agency or a manager or anything like that. So, I remember, just like as a side story, I used to play in a band here, in a cover band, that was managed partly by an agency. Well, actually, it was managed. The gig bookings were managed by an agency, and the agency got paid, and then we got paid once a month. You get your funds, no problem. It's like a real job. So, so what are your thoughts on like, say, that kind of, we do it ourselves versus here's the manager, you go ahead and or booking agency, or you go ahead and book it. What are your thoughts on that?
If we stay like full-time persons, like with our own jobs, I would say self-managing is better because we can work out in between, I can do it now, I can do it, I have holidays, I don't have, I'm here in the country, I'm out. When you do with agency and, like external management, there's no such a things. Like when they book the gig, you have to be there. No exceptions. If you don't be there, like it's bad thing for the band, for the name, for a manager. You will not be paid. So that's why. If we one day decide to go full-time musicians, full-time band only, I would say this is good.
Yeah.
I would say that's a good idea.
But again,
because you don't have to worry about all those bookings, callings, emails, how it's gonna be, when it's gonna be. You can focus on rehearsing,
on
and
stepping up.
Exactly.
Ties into what we
set
just
list,
what we said earlier.
make
just stepping up.
new songs. Just make the set list of songs fresh every month or two.
Yeah.
Something. You just leave all that administration and worries, for the manager.
Now this is the question that I actually didn't put in this, so I'll surprise you. And I don't think I asked or told the guys that, but I think, but it does tie into some of the things that they mentioned. For more content on the gig. I personally think we should play less songs. Less, more compact sets, but have different. Yeah, well, personally, I just think we should play less. What do you think about that? Like purely in Irish terms of playing live music in Ireland. It's not a trick question. Just your thoughts on the side.
Like you mean playing less as in a term of length of the gig.
Exactly. Yeah. Like right now, we play on average between 40 and 50 songs. Notwithstanding the previous gig, which was a bit more compact, but not due to us. But I think we play extremely long sets. That is that there's not a lot of effort coming into those. Personally, but like
Right.
Would you have a short thought on that?
I would say.
Or you don't mind?
Actually, personally, I don't mind, because we don't have gigs like it was one of your occasions, 1 or 2 per week. So when we play 1 per month, I don't mind, because I enjoy myself being on that stage, and like make people happy with music.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like when we have a break or something like that. When we're gonna start again? Like I finished my beer, I'm gonna play. But that will be changed if you have 1 or 2 gigs per week. That's totally different.
Excellent. Moving on. What, if any, are the band's competitors in your opinion?
Well, they're welcome.
Do you think the band has competitors?
Not at the moment.
Direct ones. How about indirect? Now I'm just kind of leading you on here. How about indirect competition?
Well, that we have, which is again.
What do you think that is?
Yeah, that's a kind of a DJing thing, which I never liked, even back in Croatia. I think that's cheating. Just pretend to be DJ and actually play MP3 songs, from a set list. That's cheating, not musicianship or whatever.
So you do look at it from a musicianship point of view in that sense, yeah. From your response, I can tell.
At least for now, our competitor is playing total different kind of music. So, I don't mind.
Yeah,
just don't book the same dates when we book, because we have 30-40% the same people coming into those events.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Sometimes, if I may add to this, that sometimes that competition, quote unquote, does step on one's toes, by setting up those similarly named events and also then putting them on the same dates and
Yeah,
pricing them the same. Although they don't
exactly.
have to split the funds to five people, they just
Exactly.
give €100 to the DJ and then take the rest for more or less themselves.
For manager.
Yeah, for the manager, yes. So,
Yeah, like DJ, he don't need to be like he don't need to rehearse. Like we are 5 piece band from. You are in the middle of a country. I'm a bit closer to Dublin, so we have to travel to the rehearsal room. Pay for that rehearsal room 2 or 3 times before actual gig happen. So in that business point of view, like yes, we earn money on that gig, but that's already like half of that was already spent. So
yeah,
we can prepare ourselves for the gig. And then, competitors, he said, like, you don't need to do that. You just need to scroll, like for 1 or 2 hours to make the set list, and that's it.
yeah, a click of a button.
Yeah, exactly.
So, moving on, what do you think are the potential difficulties with the viability of this expansion that I'm mentioning?
Expansion of
Of the
moving
of the
next
band's
level.
band's activities, again going back to that initial research question of the viability of expanding the band's activities to entire Ireland. So what do you think are the difficulties there, if any, or there's too many to mention?
Uh, difficulties would be definitely, to synchronize work and, gigs, which is possible, of course, if you want to do it. But I would say that, some of the members would say no straight away. Some of them will be like, yeah, I'm going to do it. Doesn't matter. I'll do it. And then that could lead, to some problems in the band. So there is like a kind of saying, it's better to be, first in the village than the last in the city, if you know what I mean. Like, we can stay small forever and, be happy and make people happy. Or we can go big and that will not be good.
Yeah,
Or no.
but still, like, the thing is, at the end of the day, yeah, we realistically don't have direct competition, so there, like, in my opinion, there's a potential there, but
There is.
one is having a potential and the other is being practical about it. And again, I suppose we go back to the initial things said in this interview about, stepping up the game, putting more time in, and things like that. So, what are your thoughts on potentially expanding not just outside Dublin, but outside Ireland? I know that, obviously the guys that play in the band, they got several calls from outside Ireland, but like, have you ever been approached by someone, or or have you had any thoughts about like moving outside Ireland?
I would
Briefly,
say
briefly. You don't
that
have
would,
to elaborate on
that would
that too
be
much.
easier to do
Hmm.
than actually expanding in the country. Because you have, you know, one weekend trip. You fly, you do the gig, you're coming back. Then the actual expanding in the country, it's more management, more bookings, more callings. This would be kind of easier because probably we will not have to worry about where's the gig gonna be, who's gonna do the PA, who's gonna do the sound, who's gonna sell the tickets, how like online selling tickets. Like when you're gigging like that, you are not worrying about that one.
Hmm.
There is who's gonna do it. You just need to go there, play the gig, make people happy, and go back home.
provided it's organized by someone else, I guess,
Exactly.
going back to that question about our self-managing approach, I suppose we couldn't really do that ourselves, in
No
that
way.
in that context. So yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
No.
I get it.
You
Excellent.
could have some friend, or
Hmm.
family who could connect with those people. That's fine.
Hmm.
But to actually do all those kind of things, management, bookings, no.
Well,
It has to be someone from there.
pre-pandemic, we had. I know that for a fact. We had calls from. There was some preliminary calls from Rotterdam in Netherlands, and also for the rest of them, obviously, I found that out recently. We had calls from, I don't know, like Belfast, if you can consider that to be a different country. Technically, it is.
Technically.
Glasgow, potentially London, but yeah. So there is something there as well. Excuse me. So, final question is all this, again, going back to the research question, the viability of expanding the band's activities um, outside Dublin into the entire Ireland. So, how does all this fit with the band's future? I think we mentioned that at the beginning, but I would still like to hear your thoughts. So how does this all these activities fit with the band's future? Do you think, you know, if we're gonna do that, does like staying part time, going semi professional, going professional, like what are your thoughts on this basically? So again, it's not a trick question, but like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
any such activity would it necessitate going full on, or just pulling back and saying, oh, I can't really do this, or something along those lines. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think in the future, if we get like new members, younger, who actually like they want to bite, they want more, it is possible to expand that, all that story. When you have like, neutral people that, like they don't know, they're not secure. I can do that this now, I can do that then. That's not possible. If
Yeah,
you get a, like fresh blood, new way of thinking, it's possible.
better image,
Better image, of course.
and I don't mean myself.
It's too late for you.
Yasko, Yasko mentioned about our at this point former guitar player, and one of the points that he kind of carefully pointed out is that maybe it was the image that caused some of the response by people who then decided not to come in for a gig, or I'm just being diplomatic about it.
It could
But
be image. I don't know. I don't know.
that's good.
Actually.
Well, I mean, that's not the main question here anyway, so
Right.
that's not part of the research. It's just so with that in mind, I have no further questions. If you have anything to say yourself in addition to this that I may have not touched upon, and or you think that there's something there that you think is important to mention, by all means do. Otherwise, we can conclude
Right.
the
No,
interview.
I think I said enough. Maybe even more than I should. I don't know.
Hmm.
But yeah, like I try to be honest and to do like what's my opinion.
Yeah. Well, sorry to interrupt you there. I know that at the time when I was interviewing both Sinisha and Yasko as kind of the original members of the XU band, and obviously their experiences in organizing gigs and all these things. Um, at some point, I was thinking, should I? Is it relevant for me to conduct an interview with you as well? But they were actually quite adamant that I do it because of the perspective that you would bring as a new person, the most recent person, and your
Yeah.
just general perspective from that, and obviously then I added about the business. In my opinion, it's a perspective when you buy the whole PA,
Yeah.
at least a
When you
little
invest,
bit, and do that as well alongside the band's activities. So, but yeah, they were saying no, you need to do it. We need his opinions as well. We need his views on that. So
yeah.
and finally at the end, I can only say that I'm glad that I did. So with that in mind, yeah, this will be the end of our interview, which has lasted for about 30 minutes and 30 seconds. So thank you very much, Dennis, and I hope to play many gigs with you in the future.
Oh, thanks very much for having me. It was a pleasure.